Hey everyone! So, as we continue through this area of quarantine and that virus, who I won't name because I'm sick and tired of hearing its name, we get a ton of object shows again. I guess it's one of the positive aspects of staying home. Now, I wanted to do something a bit different from last time. Since we got more than 10 shows this month, I'm gonna have 2 guests for this episode too. However, instead of bringing 2 people who actually know each other really well, I'm gonna bring 2 people who barely speak to each other. This will either be fun or extremely disastrous. Whichever way, I get views!
You do know the only reason I came here was so that I can torture you with my JoJo memes.
Damn it, Paps. Anyway, give your intro.
Hey guys, I'm Pappy Boy. I once had 2 shows, but I threw them away since they kinda suck. So now I'm in the works of a new one.
Only 2 cancelled shows? Please. I've had 5 sunglasses emoji.
And there's the other guest. Give your words, Sid.
Hey all, Sydney Flame here, and I don't make object show content. But I do work on a few shows you might know, such as Battle for $1 trillion perhaps. Also, Homer did nothing wrong and I will fight you.
Basically, I'm stuck with 2 weeaboos. Fun.
Plot twist, Nevs is secretly a weeb.
Shut up, alien.
Well actually, Nevs did watch 1 episode of Sonic X as a kid, so by that logic, he is a weeb.
Stop exposing me, grrr! Ugh, anyway, we need to get into this month's MOSER. MOSER20's May.
More like JoJo 20's.
More like Homer's 20.
So this show came out at the end of April, and is a real okay episode.
There wasn't really anything that stuck out in this episode, for better or for worse. It just kinda made for an okay experience.
Since this is the first episode I've seen of it, the writing was pretty good. There were some moments that were actually funny, and the challenge is pretty interesting too.
However, like the last episode I reviewed from this, I still don't like TV's and Coin's voices. Coin is extremely loud, to the point where it legitimately hurts to hear him, and TV is really hard to understand.
And another issue is from last episode. The grass is, a green block. Please change this.
But I do like the fact that it was all animated by one person. I was a bit surprised when I first heard about it. Vince did a great job at it.
Honestly, I don't have much to say on this episode. It did pull a really creative aspect on green screen, basically shapeshifting into a boat, and that flag is apparently still alive.
I think the biggest issue I have with this episode, and the show in general, is how it just lacks an identity of any sort. It doesn't feel special in any way, it just kinda comes off as another object show. So because of that, it's kind of unmemorable, and with no special traits, it's just average.
We don't really have anything else to comment on, so we should get to the points. I'll give writing 5 points, voice acting 3.5, animation 5, design 4, and aesthetic of 5. A total of 22.5 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing 4, animation 4.5, voice acting 4, design 4.5, and aesthetic 4, making mine a 21 out of 25.
And I give everything a 3, really. However, I don't think totaling off all my scores and adding them up would really justify my actual opinion on the episode, so instead, I'll score them out of 10. So I'm giving this episode a 6 out of 10. Not bad, but nothing great.
Now on to the second review. So, this show is in a sort of a BFB scenario. There are a lot of characters in this, and I barely remember 3 of them.
I'ma be honest, the writing wasn't that great. Like Nev said, most characters barely got any lines, and the challenge wasn't that creative.
This was first of many episodes today that I would not have gotten through if I wasn't in a call with these 2 jokers. It's the shortest episode of them all, not even being 10 minutes, but it really dragged.
Yeah, the interactions between characters weren't interesting at all. Besides the fact that they introduced half the cast for just showing them on screen all at once and then saying, here's a competition show, it just made it so formulaic.
The thing that really irked me the most was how the characters were mostly just the BFBRCs. That's just really lazy.
And the nail polish character is extremely generic and just felt like any other nail polish character. Really annoyed me. Besides that, characters like Blender, Kitchen Sink, and Camera said close to no lines. It's always a problem with shows who try to do it like BFB. Equal screen time is a rare thing that happens in shows like that.
The voice acting was decent for the most part. Some voices were kind of hard to listen to, and the animation was, well, okay-ish. But the crossed arms were bugging me a lot, and the backgrounds almost never changed between frames. But I think it's time to rate the episode. I'll give writing 2, animatic 3.5, voice acting 4, design 3, and aesthetic 4, making my score a 17.5 out of 25.
I'll give writing 3 points, voice acting 3.5, animation gets 3, design gets 3.5, and aesthetic a 5. A total of 18 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing a 2, animation a 3, voice acting a 3, design a 1, and aesthetic a 2. And overall, I give this episode a 2 out of 10. Not my thing.
And now on to the next review.
Well, I wasn't expecting this, but that's a good thing. This episode was actually pretty enjoyable, especially compared to many others on this list.
The writing was pretty good. There were some moments that confused me, like how the team got onto the asteroid and Belle having actual finger guns. But there were moments that nearly killed me from laughter.
The Disney princesses, but what I don't think you know is that they are the single most helpful thing you can use to prevent colon cancer.
Oh no, you
Now, I know
What the fuck did he say? To prevent what?
Oh no.
This line killed us. On its own, it made the episode 50 times better. It's an incredible subversion of what you were expecting him to say, and it's such a bizarre comment too. It's just comedy gold.
However, this episode did have some issues as much as I loved it. The writing was pretty generic with the whole "you can do it" speech. However, this was a legit original challenge I did not see before, as stupid as it may seem for some people. The subplot of the meteor and basketball was legitimately interesting, like what the fuck? Although I think it ended too early for the episode.
The music also felt quite unfaded, and the lip syncing didn't quite match up to the voices at times. But there were some legitimately enjoyable parts of this episode. The dialogue may have been generic and even forced at times, but at other times it was pretty natural and fun. And a lot of the characters are pretty likable as well, although I do feel like the episode focused a bit too much on basketball and marble.
While I wasn't the biggest fan of the animation, it was alright for Flip a Clip. Some of the backgrounds were pretty eye-pleasing as well, like the meteor for example.
But either way, we should get to the scores. I'll give writing 3.5, voice acting 4, animation 2.5, design 5, and aesthetic of 3.5. A total of 17.5 out of 25.
I give writing a 4, animation a 2, voice acting a 3, design a 3, and aesthetic a 2. My overall opinion was a 6 out of 10, but the line about colon cancer was so good it makes it a 7 out of 10 by itself.
I'll give writing 4.5, animation 2.5, voice acting 3.5, design 3, and aesthetic 3, equaling a 16.5 out of 25.
And now, onto the next review. So, since both episodes were extremely alike quality-wise, we decided to mash both reviews together. Now, I get that Jack and Jellify need financial support. I totally respect that, and they totally deserve it. But the way they advertise it robbed me off the wrong way. The sentence on the sweater was never used until BFB 18, and now it's overused as hell.
The writing for both episodes weren't the best. There were so many unfunny and overused jokes, and some jokes felt really rushed. And some moments felt unnecessarily awkward, like X moaning every time someone is safe and steps on his aloe vera.
But the biggest complaint I have with both of these episodes is how the writers completely forgot how to write this show. A lot of the characters feel entirely different in a bad way, and a lot of the jokes feel completely forced or out of place.
Yeah, I noticed that at the walk joke. At first it was actually funny, but then for the second and third time, it was just so weak.
Also, Ruby. What the hell did they do with Ruby? I already didn't like her, but every single line she says legitimately makes me want to pull my hair out. That one scene where she sang in the van with Leafy, even though they were just driving in circles, was the most annoyed I had ever felt watching a cartoon, not just limited to object shows. And she also has these quote-unquote funny one-liners, like this one for example.
Sorry, Mommy, did I do a no-no again?
What happened to the writing with the show?
Also, the parts where Taco was guilt-tripping Spongy felt really out of place for her. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that felt so off for Taco, especially considering the arc she had in the previous BFB. Also, I can't be the only one who found the new elimination really weird. Like, they pulled it kinda out of nowhere and it got me confused.
Well, I kinda like it. In the previous BFB where 4 eliminates them, it's X that eliminates them instead. Equality.
I guess, but in both episodes there's this weird after credits scene with the eliminated contestants where they're screaming with machine noises and it's just completely out of place, and whatever they're gonna do with it, they're gonna mess it up. I just know it.
And to people who say BFB doesn't have a style, it clearly fucking does. I mean, the number of changes in brush sizes, animation movement, and posing is highly noticeable. It's on both episodes and it's so distracting.
It wasn't as bad as episode 17, but it's still really noticeable. Not many of the animators can capture the BFB style. My last complaint would be how much filler episode 19 had at the end. As if the challenge wasn't confusing enough with its poorly explained point system, but then it changes out of nowhere to trying to shrink the sun, and one of the teams die while doing it. But they still managed to grow the aloe vera plant enough, so they won? So what was the point of that part? Nobody shrank the sun at all, they just died, and that was the end of the challenge. What was the point of that?
Overall, the writing was extremely off and disappointing for BFB. I definitely understand the reason behind the inconsistent animation, as the new animators only had 3 episodes so far, but it's still something they should fix. But anyway, we should get to the scores. By the way, the score goes for both episodes. So I'll give writing 2.5, voice acting a 5, animation 2.5, design 5, and aesthetic 3, total of 18 out of 25.
For episode 18, I'll give writing 2, animation 4, voice acting 4, design 5, and aesthetic 3, which gives 18 out of 25. And for episode 19, I'll give writing 2.5, animation 3.5, voice acting 4, design 5, and aesthetic 3.5, giving an 18.5 out of 25.
Both episodes were really similar to me, so they both get the same scores, those being animation a 2, voice acting a 4, design a 3, aesthetic a 2, and most importantly, writing gets a -1. It was that bad, it got into negatives. My overall enjoyment of both of these episodes was a 0 out of 10. What happened to the show?
But anyway, we should move on to the next review. Well, this episode's animation was really good, honestly. It was consistent, and you can see each animator put an effort into it.
Yeah, I agree. Excluding some awkward frames and PNGs being dragged, I love the animation.
However, that's where positives end for me, because everything else was kinda really bad.
I get what you mean. The interactions were pretty dry and generic, especially with cinnamon and peanut butter.
The voice acting wasn't all peaches and cream either. Some voices were either too quiet or hard to understand. Also, Hat's voice is so fucking annoying. It sounds like the depths of Hades is coming to snatch away my ears.
Definitely my biggest gripe with this episode was the challenge. Doomspire is a really simple concept, but it was explained so poorly. Not only that, but it just kinda felt like the writers were doing whatever they wanted. Hardly anything was coherent, and it made for a really frustrating and confusing experience. I had no idea what was going on half the time.
What bothered me is that Peppermint said nothing until 6 minutes into the episode. And also, the elimination, just what the fuck. Hat's reaction was funny, not gonna lie, but still, what the fuck was that?
This is the sole reason why I hate Hat. Her voice is the definition of some 8-year-old on an Xbox mic spouting nonsense.
A lot of the animatic when not much was happening had the characters in their default poses, and this annoyed me a lot. Plus the animation just felt really inconsistent too, with a horrible blend of animatic and animation. It all felt so out of place. There was also at one point where Sticker just kinda builds a wall without moving. Again, if the rules of Doomspire were established better, this wouldn't be an issue.
Designs, however, were really good. The backgrounds were decent, the assets were clean, and I loved the spires as well. One of the good aspects of this episode.
Aesthetic-wise, I think it was all rather smooth, and so we should get to the scores. So writing gets 3, voice acting gets 4.5, animation 4, design 5, and aesthetic 5. Overall, a total of 21.5 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing 3, animation 4, voice acting 2.5, design 5, and aesthetic 4, giving it an 18.5 out of 25.
I give writing a 0, animation a 1, voice acting a 2, design a 3, and aesthetic a 3. My overall enjoyment was a 1 out of 10. I was not a big fan of this one. But now, on to the next review.
So, I can't comment on 3 of these aspects, but I just want to say the writing was absolutely fantastic. Globe is baby, and I love him, and you cannot change my damn mind.
Incorrect. As the voice actress of Globe, I can confirm that he is not baby. Boom, change your mind.
This is by far one of the better ones. The designs were amazing, most voices fit, and the writing was executed well. I really liked the arcade token scene. However, this show also has its flaws. Like, the wine glass and locker scene kinda dragged, and the animation of the scene with Candy Cane and Gas Tank was off.
Yeah, honestly, as much as I loved the writing in this episode, there were some one-liners that I didn't like. The social animals line was purely cringing, and I personally didn't like the umbrella and bell scene.
This is the one show that I actually worked for, so I may be biased, especially because I'm a very close friend of Mooney, so I'll start off by saying something negative in that, yeah, I wasn't a fan of some parts, specifically parts with Star in them. I am not a fan of his character, and I really do not think Jacob fits his voice. I'm also not really that big of a fan of Gas Tank. Like, Nevs, I love your voice and all, but this character is nothing but we're all gonna die, and I cannot stand it.
The voice acting was really good for the most part. Gas Tank's moody tone fit the lines, for example. However, some parts of VA felt odd to me, like Recycling Bin's voice change felt out of place, and something about Spray Paint's voice really annoyed me. But overall, I really liked the voice acting.
The animatic is pretty good too. It stayed consistent throughout, and no parts felt out of place besides Erase's weird jumping animation near the start.
Like I said before, the only scene that felt off was the Candy Cane and Gas Tank. That's pretty much the only scene I found off, but the rest was great. The aesthetic was also really good. Nice choices of music.
The design for this episode was legit astonishing. The backgrounds were extremely pleasing and the assets were extremely smooth. But we should get to the scores. Writing gets 4.5, voice acting gets 4, animatic gets 4.5, design gets 5, and aesthetic gets 5. A total of 23 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing 4.5, animatic 4, voice acting 4, design 5, and aesthetic 5, making mine a 23 out of 25.
I give writing a 3, animation a 4, voice acting a 4, design a 4, and aesthetic a 4. My overall enjoyment was a 7 out of 10. Good improvement from last episode.
And now that we finally passed half of the reviews, let's get into the 7th review.
What, you expected a bad show? Well, too bad. Well, actually that's a good thing, but yeah, I really like this episode. This is a show I see people bring up when discussing good object shows, and for good reason.
The episode really pleased me with its design. I mean, oh my god, look at that space! But this episode also has its flaws as well. Like the animation for KSSU running away felt out of place, and I didn't really like 3D printed Nearly and Cube's voices. They were kind of annoying.
Honestly, Bandana was extremely annoying. I get it's a part of her personality to go after KSSU, but Jesus, it got to the point where it got so repetitive.
I noticed that the animation style changed a little bit at times. Not to the point where it becomes extremely distracting like in BFB, but it is noticeable. But that's enough negatives, because this episode had a lot of positives too.
I really like the alternate character thing, honestly. It's really cool to see who they will be as other objects. It was weird though, because we kinda spotted everyone's alternate version, but not presumably D100's.
D100's too baby to have a replica.
The spaceship setting is really nice too. It's something we don't really see that much in object shows. The interior looked fantastic, and seeing the contestants explore it all, with each room having their own unique things in them, it was really nice.
I really like the ending with Asthma Inhaler. I wonder where it will lead, and I can't wait to see what the show has for us. But we should get to the scores. I'll give writing 4.5, voice acting 5, animation 4.5, design 5, and aesthetic a 5. A total of 24 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing 4.5, animation 4, voice acting 4.5, design 5, and aesthetic 5, making mine a 23 out of 25.
For me, I give 4s all across the board, and my overall enjoyment for this episode was an 8 out of 10.
And now, on to the next review.
What, you expected a bad show? Then you'd be right, this wasn't actually very good.
While this was a first episode, it had many flaws, like the pacing. Whenever someone finishes a sentence, there's like 3 seconds of pause and then it resumes.
I really can't comment on the writing at all, but I admit it wasn't my best work. But what really bugged me was the voice acting. Fusion does not fit at all with Pocket Watch. It legitimately got me angry.
I don't remember asking you about it,
I
Obtuse.
think Scroll's
You
voiced
see what I
by...
mean? You see what I mean?
What in the cheesy Joe is this? That was as easy as cooking with gas.
No.
Can you two keep it down? Mr. Scaressa here is doing enough noise as a paper shaker, and I don't need any more than that.
You see what I mean? He's like, oh god, I will literally kill someone. I'm gonna make a grand slaughter. I don't have anything against the guy, but as the one who came up with the character and had a lot of jokes that are more voice related for it, Fusion's voice acting really ruined it. Besides the fact, Fusion's voice acting was always monotone. Oopsie.
Yeah, we all pretty much had a mental breakdown whenever he says a slang that was ruined by the monotone.
Back to the writing for a second, there were times where I legitimately had no idea what was going on. Characters just kinda...
He says as he pulls a tablet out.
He pulls a tablet out of his ass.
It was in there the entire time.
with nothing beforehand to indicate they actually found anything. But at the end, 𝕊𝕊 didn't even grab anything in the first place, but she was declared safe? It was clear whoever did any animatic was not given any help with it. It was so confusing. Also, Game & Watch literally said he was deaf in his eye. That's not how that works.
Some characters like Bowling Pin felt really cliche, and others like Thread were really annoying. Some good ones though, like Shopping Bag, were actually executed decently. This is why Shopping Bag is the only good character, aside from Fireworks, who I voted.
Snowflake and Pocket Watch were also characters I didn't like. Pocket Watch was because of Fusion completely ruined the character with his monotone voice. And also 𝕊𝕊 is racist towards plastic characters? Okay. What? The design of the show also was pretty bad. The animatic was fine, the character assets were fine, but...
Look how
Not only
fucking
that, not
squashed
only
it
that,
is. It's so squashed.
Yeah, it's not so squashed.
And not only that, but sometimes the backgrounds never even changed. And the backgrounds in Spaceship, for example, looked horrible. What are these windows? What is the speaker and what is this movement for it?
The voice acting was not that great. Pocket Watch and Root Beer's voices didn't fit, and at some point Ice Bags was really loud. Some other voices were pretty decent though, like Shopping Bag and 𝕊𝕊.
Aesthetic-wise, it was okay. Some of the music didn't fit with certain scenes, and the elimination scene was extremely hard to hear.
The title card was near the end of the episode, which really bugged me. A lot of the transitions were really painful, the introduction dragged, and I cannot stand those colored mouths. Let's just get to scoring this thing. Writing gets a 1, animation gets a 2, voice acting gets a 3, design and aesthetic get a 2. Overall enjoyment was a 1 out of 10. This show is in desperate need of improving.
I'll give writing 4, animatic 4, voice acting 3, design 5, and aesthetic 3, totaling a 19 out of 25.
I'll give writing 4.5, voice acting 3.5, animation 3, design 3, and aesthetic at 2.5. Overall 16.5 out of 25 points. And now, on to the next review.
Oh, it's about time we got to this episode. I'm just gonna go right ahead and say it. This is easily my favorite object show. This episode was astounding.
I agree. The jokes were actually funny, and all 60 contestants got a decent amount of screen time. Also, bonus baby.
This is the prime example of an extremely successful execution for a VFD-based show. Everything about this is fascinating. The animatic, the character interactions, and overall writing. The voice acting was extremely unique. I didn't hear any of those voices before. The music choice fit every scene, and the design overall was really chibi and cute. And also, no, blanket is baby.
The original idea for the show was just characters being assets with text, so this show just starts off with characters gaining the limbs and voices and reacting to the changes. The fun hijinks that pursue in the scene are really enjoyable to watch.
Honestly, the only thing I didn't like about the episode were some designs that felt odd to me, like the food dyes. But overall, the best episode yet. Also, that Farty and Antimatter scene was by far the best one.
This show actually remembers that it's meant to be an object show, because the characters' personalities and voices actually fit with the kind of object they are. Take Filmy for example. He's made to poke fun of dramatic moments in movies, like when he's about to get hit by a bouncy ball, the way everything slows down and everyone reacts to him for one dramatic speech, despite the fact that he's literally just gonna get hit by a ball, is absolutely hilarious. In fact, a lot of the humor in this episode is great too. I don't think there was a single joke I didn't like. I go into detail, but I want the people to see it for themselves.
The fact that this was all made in PowerPoint makes it so much better. It really shows that the program doesn't matter and you can have an incredible show with both programs.
There isn't a single character I actually dislike, to be honest. Some characters could have done with a little more screen time, but whatever really. This episode did a fantastic job of introducing each of its 60 characters. That is impressive. Plus, the way one of the teams win the challenge in the end is incredibly creative. I won't spoil what it is because I want people to watch the show for themselves, but it's easy to tell whoever wrote this episode had a lot of fun doing so. Please check the show out, it deserves a lot more attention than it already has.
We should get to the scores. I'll give 5 for everything and a bonus 5 for creativity. A total of a well-deserved 30 out of 25.
I'll give everything a 5 except for design, which gets a 4.5, and a plus 5 for creativity, making my score a 29.5 out of 25.
And that's for me, straight 5s all across the board. Without a doubt the best show we've seen today, and it gets a perfect 10 out of 10 from me, no complaints.
And now, onto the 10th review.
Well, this was pretty alright for a start.
If by pretty alright you mean bad, then yeah, I agree. I'll try to be nicer with this one since it is the first episode, but that doesn't mean I still can't give it the criticism it desperately needs.
Honestly, I think it was very formulaic. It was all really just like other first episodes, and it didn't really feel unique or honestly interesting. The challenge is original, but the way it was executed wasn't the best. For some of the contestants, we didn't even see them play anything to get the scores, like Etch-a-Sketch. The games they were playing were extremely stereotypical to the type of object they are, and it honestly bothered me because it felt forced. And honestly, I can't be the only one who thinks that the prize for this show is extremely blown out. Like, a wish, $10 million, and a mention? This is way too much for a show. And the Paper Mario character, I honestly just stopped understanding this show at this point.
The voice acting was meh for me. Salami and Candy's voices sound like the voice actor was recording at 3 AM and trying not to wake up his parents. In short, too quiet and not enough effort.
Wait, candy? That's meant to be a piece of candy? Yeah, the design for this episode was mixed. For positives, there was a nice shot of the city at the start, and the arcade floor looks pretty nice too. However, my main design gripe is definitely with the character assets. They all look really inconsistent. Castle, Cookie Dough, Lucky, Salami, Paper Mario character, they all look like they're in different styles and it's so distracting.
The animation was simple for the most part, but the scene with Bullet and Candy felt really off, and the part where Salami's on the dance board felt lazy.
But if I do have to speak positively about anything, I like the shop gimmick. Obviously it was just explained this episode, but it's a unique idea, and I can see it mixing up some eliminations if it's done right.
Aesthetic-wise, it was pretty alright, but personally, I really don't like the title card. Just Party Popper flailing his arms and text changing. And the music was literally killing my ears with volume. But we should get to the scores. I'll give writing 3, voice acting 3.5, animation 4, design 3.5, and aesthetic a 4. A total of 18 out of 25 points.
I'll give writing 4, animation 3.5, voice acting 3.5, design 4, and aesthetic 3.5, giving it 18.5 out of 25.
And as for me, I'll give writing a 2, animation a 2, voice acting a 3, design a 1, and aesthetic a 2. Overall enjoyment was a 2 out of 10. And finally, mercifully, the last review.
Okay, last review of the month. Now, where to begin? Well, for the writing, there were scenes that dragged, like the first two, but the whole challenge thing where the contestants tricked Battery into announcing a contest to build a ship and have them escape without him knowing is pretty genius in my opinion.
However, there was a huge problem with the subplot in particular. That is, the serial subplot. Now, the fact that they try to make this relatable character is really cool, but they wrote it in a way that it's overly sensitive and makes zero sense.
I know I'm gonna sound really rude here, but to be completely 100% honest, this episode was so bad it was good at times. There were some parts early on into the episode which was so easy to make fun of, it was that bad. Like for instance, this scene.
I mean,
Oh my god, he's crying. Oh my god. Oh my god, this is so touching. This is so emotional. Oh my god.
I was called useless.
Damn, bro, you got me confused right there.
I swear to fucking god, I hate.
Damn, bro, you got me in the feels right there.
This whole conversation was so pathetic. Not only is it incredibly cliche setup, but it also really isn't helped by Serial's voice actor not even making an attempt to sound convincingly sad. And to add even more insult to injury, there was a scene just before this one with close to the exact same setup.
For the voice acting, it was decent. However, I think there was a time where Smoke Bomb was voiced by Yoshi Tails, even though we heard Rival 2.
I personally disagree there. In my opinion, with only a few exceptions, most of the voice actors didn't even try at all. They all just sound like they were reading words instead of playing a character like you're meant to do if you're voice acting.
Honestly, the designs in this episode were awesome. The assets looked really detailed and clear, and the backgrounds were really simple, yet really satisfying.
This episode was really sparse with its humor, making it incredibly boring, but at the times it actually attempted humor, it went one of two ways. Random equals funny, or jokes with no substance to them whatsoever, leading to this episode having a really dull and obnoxious feel to it that just made it a chore to sit through.
Although, something that really bothered me is that objects there eat. I already expressed this in my object show review, but basically, objects don't need to eat. They're objects, no need to make this realistic by adding food.
We had to sit through a lot of bad shows, but in my opinion, besides BFB, this is the one that needs the most improving. If I was not in a call with these two, I would not have finished this one. It was so bad.
But other than that, we should finish with the scores. So, I'll give writing 2.5, voice acting 3.5, animation 5, design 5, and aesthetic of 5. A total of 21 out of 25 points. Funny number.
I'll give writing 3.5, animation 4, voice acting 4, design 5, and aesthetic 4. Giving this episode a 20.5 out of 25.
Writing's a 0, animation's a 2, voice acting's a 1, design's a 3, and aesthetics a 2. My overall enjoyment was a 0 out of 10. I don't want to seem like a killjoy, but this show desperately needs improvements.
Now, we are finally done. Reviewing 12 episodes isn't easy at all.
But it was a lot of damn fun, let me tell you that. Even though we suffered through 80% of them.
Honestly, yeah, I agree. Though the majority of these shows were really bad, reviewing them was pretty fun. Reviews are something I've wanted to do for the longest time now, so I'm glad to have finally gotten the opportunity to. Thanks, Nevs.
Hey, anytime! Speaking of reviewing, next month will be Moser's first birthday, or anniversary, however you would like to call it. So there might be something more to next month. Updates will follow. Thanks a bunch for Sydney and Pappy for helping me with this. Both of their channels will be linked in the description, and I definitely recommend checking them out.
Thanks, my guy. Now, how do you usually end these again?
Ooh, with a fade out.
But you can't end this yet, we have to plug as much as we can. Magical Magica is a really cool show and you should watch it if you're into dark stuff. It's rated 15, so kids shouldn't watch it, but it's a masterpiece of storytelling and Stan Homer or Kemi should nothing wrong and I'll fight you on that.
Or you into the fourth dimension.
I'm just drained out at this point. Anyway, see you in the next Moser, everyone.
Battery staring at Boomer's ass.
Melcha or Mallows, considering they're
Oh my god, Mal! Oh my god, this is literally my episode. It says Mal in there.
I thought it said Mario's.
He's dead.
Alright.
It's gonna end like that.
That's not the episode.
Ah yes, a dead body.
Wait, is Spongy here?
That's gold.
That's Gold and Spongy, actually. Completely different characters. I'm telling you, Nev, he turned himself into a gold. He's called Gold and Spongy. Holy shit,
Oh my god! That's where Puff was for the entirety of BFTD. Oh my god!
Yeah, what? Is that Puff Bull from Object Madness?
It's Puff Bill.
They're insanely boring.
Oh, what?
Okay,
Wow.
she just
Kill
laughed.
yourself?
More like poopsicle.
And she died.
More like Poopsicle? Me after watching BFB 18.
I don't really talk to people. I fear they're all
Fucking loser.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Blind with one eye doesn't mean I'm deaf in one too.
Yikes.
Yeah, I'm not deaf in my eye.
What are you talking about?
And how are you so
No, it
sure of
doesn't.
that, Shuckster? Get off.
Get off. Get off. Get off, whore.
Get off. For Dylan.
Oh god, he ruined the killer Diller, no! Such a killer Diller. You're supposed to be such a killer Diller, not killer Dillers. I'm never letting anyone Fuck. No, that's not connected that way.
I mean,
How are
you
you
should
supposed
listen
to
to
do
the Swigger. He might have a good point.
the swigger?
It's a slang for a drinker.
That fuse is ruined.
Oh, I'm on a trip with biscuits.
Ugh, God, no, never again, never again, never. Ooh, is that a tablet up my ass? Well, I guess now Scroll's got one too. How did she find it? She's blind.
Hear or smell?
How could they don't have noses, Pappy?
Oh, what if?
Taste.
Wait.
She was constantly licking.
She was licking the grass.
This grass tastes strangely metallic.
We be licking the grass here.
Incredible items. Episode 1, a clap of the ass cheeks.
We don't even have anything. No fair.
This is. Oh, that's an apricot.
Well, no, don't tell me you thought it was that.
I thought it was a bot.
I love how the drawing just says "draw" on the
Draw.
top.
Look at the fucking tree.
Here's the food you've ordered.
Thanks.
Oh yeah, but
Objects don't need to eat. Objects don't need to eat. Objects don't need to eat. Please stop letting objects eat. What? He didn't even.
Random equals funny.
Random equals funny.
What? Why am I in the bar?
Come on, make me safe already.
Close enough.
Wait, what did I do to deserve being in?
You see, I called it. I called it.
Battery looking ugly as usual.
Shut up, Ice.
Wow, what an insult.
Rude.
Why are people so mean?
I'm not gonna get.
At least I have a brain.
Stop making.
I swear to fucking God.
I bet you guys know this word.
There's only one. There's only one letter.
Eating their objects. Objects. I'll see it once, I'll say it again. Objects don't fucking eat, especially if they're a battery and a fucking peanut butter jar.
Oh boy, we're going shopping.
That wasn't synchronized.
Get in, teardrop. We're going shopping.
Get in, teardrop. We're gonna assassinate John F. Kennedy.
All right, Smallfoot and I will.
What the fuck? Happy? What was your immunity? Did you also pull that out of your ass?
Yes, I was walking down the street when I heard the clap of my ass cheeks.